I'm
Another
here.
episode of Language of Leadership. You hear me all right?
I can hear you good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. It's a Monday, and I have come to love the beginning of the week. I mean, I'm pumped every time I come in, and I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the things that we work on. And I'm really excited that you're starting to put that out there for others to really get involved and understand what it is that you're doing and what it is that matters when it comes down, just like what we talked about in the show here, the title, The Language of Leadership.
Yeah, so I mean, look, first off, everyone needs to know that we got to start coordinating outfits so this doesn't happen again. This isn't a Sadie Hawkins day. This is the Language of Leadership, not Sadie Hawkins. Rigo neither asked me nor did I ask him to this podcast. This just happened. Here's the deal.
Hey, but we're both bald, beautiful, and have the same shirt.
It's right. I guess I got to get some headphones and a more interesting mic. But I'll work
one
on
that actually works.
So the thing is that we have routines that we've built, right? The fire starter is a routine that gets us into power every single day, right? We use the fire starter to get ourselves into power so that we can go and live our purpose every single day. As a leader, if you don't have a routine that gets you into power, you are not going to either lead very well or very long. Now, you may have developed these subconsciously, you may have done this on purpose or not. Here at Forge Legend, we have several routines that we can give you, in other words, for you to pick. But there are some basic caveats you're going to go through every single time. Now, that's not the purpose of this. But yeah, the thing that you said, Rick, was like, yeah, I'm starting to love the beginning of the week because I'm leaning into my routines and it gets me started. Truth is, I fucking hate the beginning of the week. I hate the middle of the week. Sometimes I love the middle of the week. Sometimes with routine, it doesn't matter how I feel about it. I just say, okay, I'm going to get myself spun up and I'm going to go because I'm a professional. I'm not an amateur. I'm not just doing this because I love it. I'm not just doing this when I feel it. I'm a pro. I'm going to show up. And in order to show up, I need to put myself in power. So I have certain routines that I go through to put me inside of that power so that I can go and execute on my purpose every single day. And that's what it's all about. So this showing up here for this podcast today, right now, Language of Leadership, it doesn't matter how I felt about it. It doesn't matter if I was excited. It doesn't matter if I was negative. Hey, I'm a pro. That's what I do. We go. Same with you in your life. Like, so many people are looking for motivation. They're looking for a way to feel great about going to work. Well, that doesn't necessarily matter if you're a pro. You're going to go whether you feel good or not. How about get yourself into power so you can make a choice of what you're going to accomplish and then go do that, and know that when you say you're going to do something, you do it because you have many, many reps to prove that to yourself. That's what our process is here. That's what we are all about. That is not, however, the subject of this Language of Leadership today. We're going to talk a ton about mastery, but I've talked a lot. Rigo, I don't know if that sums up how you feel as well.
No, it does. You know, we were talking offline and you were walking through this process of the journey of an apprentice and identifying the skill sets and the value add that an apprentice has as that moves into journeyman, and where you are identifying a lot of mistakes that are made. And honestly, one that I have looked at myself many times thinking, I want to help, like looking at Donald, I want to help Donald become a master in his area. But what you identified here and what I'm guessing we're going to get more into is understanding the importance of actually diving into the journeyman of your organization, of strengthening the journey.
Mastery first, before you give the punchline before the joke. Let's talk about what mastery is first, right? So master, like if you really look back to the word mastery, like I want to master, this is a continual layer of learning. Like mastery is about becoming a master of something, having enough knowledge to be able to really create competently at a very high level. It's almost to the point of perfection, like seeking that perfection, knowing we're never going to get, being a master of something, right? But inside of our modern language, master has become this really weird word that has these weird connotations about ownership, has these the mastery we're talking about. We're saying, hey, I want to master my craft. I want to be a master in my craft. This comes from way back when there was an apprenticeship system. There was a system for becoming a master, right? If you wanted to have a certain craft, then you started as an apprentice. Apprentice comes from the French word apprendre, which just means to learn, right? I want to learn how to do. So today, we have a lot of unions will still use this setup because it works really well. And the truth is, it's thousands of years old for a reason, because it works. So there's guys who want to learn the craft. They come in as an apprentice, they get paid less. Why? Because they don't know the craft. They come in and get paid less. Now, we might call them more like an intern right now. Okay, so they're getting paid less because they're learning. They're making their chops. They're apprentices. Now, once an apprentice was accomplished, like once he could reliably do the work, he would typically leave his first shop, right, and find another one to go to the next step of his journey, which was called a journeyman. Now, why would we go from apprentice, which means to learn, to journeyman? Well, because typically there was a journey involved, a physical relocation where I'm going to go work for another master. Now I'm proven, I'll be paid more because I'm a proven commodity. And they would literally travel from city to city or wherever that other master was and become a journeyman. Right now, it's a certain small percentage of journeymen became eventually masters of their own. But it's important to understand that there was only really one master per house. You didn't have 5 or 6 masters. Apprentices and journeymen would attach themselves to masters for work, to learn and for work. And a master, right, who really understood the craft would then direct the work of all of those people. And in today's world, we're starting to lose touch with the value of the journeyman, because the journeyman is where it's at. They're the guys who get stuff reliably done. They don't have to be masters. If you're someone who manages people right now, understanding this progression inside of your people is very, very important. And we have all gotten kind of mixed up thinking that we need to make all of our employees masters of whatever they're doing. Now, don't get me wrong. We want them to have mastery, but not really. We want them to be journeymen. Journeyman just means that they show up and reliably produce results. They show up and reliably produce results. That is so important, because reliably producing 65% of the greatest in the world is how you're going to win in business, period. Like, that's how you're going to win, is reliably producing again and again and again. Is it great to be a master? Yes, absolutely. It's great to be a master, but you don't need a team of masters. And for whatever reason right now, I see a lot of managers, a lot of leaders, a lot of business owners trying to get this team of masters. Guess what's going to happen if you get a team of masters working with you? The whole damn thing is going to break up, because they're all going to start trying to build their own thing, because that's what masters do. Like, that's what they do. So understanding, hey, I have apprentice, we have journeyman, and I am the master, right? Not the master like I own things, it's just the master like I understand the vision of this full creation and can use the journeyman and apprentice to move that forward. This is a powerful way of thinking about leadership, right? There are people here that are here to learn this craft, and there are people here who are reliable at producing different pieces of this craft, although they may not have mastery to see the full thing, the full project scope. My role as the leader.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at this in terms of mastery, getting some good. Okay. When I'm looking at this in terms of assuming that the individual set of journeymen that are all going to be the same level of multi-talented in the math side, right? Because can you really be a master of 5, 6, 7 different skill sets?
Well, no, I mean, that's what's crazy, right? Like, can you master? No, depending on what skills we're talking about, depending on different pieces of your business, you yourself will be at different levels, right? You are going to be a master blacksmith and a master, I'll say electrician, although they didn't have those back then, but you're not going to be a master blacksmith and a master chef. There's not enough space in a lifetime. I mean, in reality, as a leader, you can be anything, but you're not going to be able to be everything. So this master blacksmith is going to have a certain craft that he's doing. At your office, at your endeavor, there's a certain thing that you're doing that you can be the master of. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the master. So how do you reconcile that? If not every business owner has to be a master of accounting. This is why we hire CPAs, right? Not every business owner has to be a master of marketing. This is why we hire marketing firms. et cetera, all the way down the line. It's going to be a certain thing that you have mastery in. There's going to be other things you're going to be an apprentice in. Some of them you may just enjoy, like maybe you're just an apprentice painter because it's fun and it defrays stress on the weekends. That's great. But understanding this hierarchy of like apprentice, journeyman, master is so important, because we are not trying to go hire another master to do the thing for us. That's very rare unless you're very high, like at a very high level in business, then that's the right move. The vast majority of people that you're trying to find a journeyman and then give him your vision of where we're going. Like share that vision, lead that person forward as the master of whatever the endeavor is you're taking right now. I just think that when we start talking about efficiency and things, people start looking at efficiency like, well, these guys are 65 or 70% efficient. That's awesome. That's journeyman level. That is a reliable level of efficiency that we should be happy with and learn to manage as the master of any given project. And then we use apprentices who are maybe 25, 30% efficient, or maybe not efficient at all, they're just learning things, but they can lift shit, right? There's the architect who understands where all the brick goes. There's the bricklayers who are the journeymen just getting things done. And then there's the apprentice guys who are just bringing water and cement and other shit close to the guys who know what the hell they're doing. I'm not sure what's going on with the broadcast here. I kind of see you popping in and out. I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're having some kind of technical difficulty at the home office, and that's okay. So, I mean, for you as a leader, like I really would love for you to evaluate inside of yourself, like where have you achieved mastery? Where are you going? Because mastery doesn't mean the end of learning, the end of study. In fact, most masters are painfully aware of the things they don't know. If I was to take a group of people who've never shot a gun, a group of people who've shot a gun once or twice, a group of people who are reasonably, pretty good at shooting a gun, and then I take a group of sharpshooters who are experts, right? And they're all in the same audience. And I said, hey, there's deficiencies in your shooting game. All of them would be able to agree with that. In fact, the sharpshooting experts, the masters of the craft, would know more specifically where the shortcomings are in their game than anybody else. So mastery doesn't mean you've arrived, now tell everyone what to do. Mastery means you understand the craft, you have the vision of where we're going, and now, in theory, you can direct journeymen and apprentices to help get that overall vision where it needs to go, where you want it to go. A master sculptor, right, didn't necessarily hit every single piece of the rock off. He could tell a journeyman sculptor who's working with him, which is how these bigger things happen, right? Think about like Mount Rushmore. It happens with hundreds of people working on it, but there's one master sculptor who's saying, no, take pieces off here. He hands that to a journeyman. It gets him to understand what his next task is, and then moves to another journeyman, helps him understand his next task. The actual production and execution is built on the backs of journeymen. That's right. Who are happy to do that, because that's why they're there, because they're saying, hey, I can do this job, but I can't necessarily manage the whole thing. That's why they're coming to you as the master. So when we start trying to make our employees masters, we screw things up in a lot of different ways, because they're coming to us to have something to do. Like they're coming to us as journeymen saying, I want to fulfill this function. Now, a certain percentage of them will move on to be masters, and we do want to allow them to grow and to be fulfilled. But what happens when we start saying, well, you're the master of this, is we accidentally offload what? The vision. As a leader, it's our responsibility to bring that vision. So remembering that if whatever your endeavor is, if it's putting up windmills, if it's an oil rig, if it's a trucking company, whatever it is, remembering that that's like a sculpture. And a master sculptor is the guy who sees what it's going to look like at the end. The journeyman sculptor is just doing little pieces he's told to do, and the apprentice is probably just getting tools and cleaning out, all of the debris. That's it, while he gets a little bit in touch with what it means to be a sculptor.
Okay, so I got a question. How many times do you think we have journeymen trying to create masters in an organization? Like, how many times are, how do we self-evaluate? What if we are not in a mastery position?
So help me understand the question. Are you talking about?
All right, so I'm building a team, and a lot of times, maybe just because I'm a leader, I feel that I have to lead them into this level of journeyman, or you're saying we're making a mistake in organizations, and I see this where we're trying to make everybody masters. But what if, as a leader, we're not in a mastery position? Like, how do we identify that so that we understand?
I mean, for me, the best example of this in most businesses is accounting, right? Like, then you hire someone to be the master of that and understand, like, hey, I'm gonna get the hell out of the way.
That is a great point. Right? That is a great point.
You don't have to be a master of everything. In fact, in today's world, I don't even think it's possible. Like, I don't even think it. No, neither is it possible nor advantageous to be a master of everything. You don't have enough life to be a master of everything.
Yeah, or do you even want to spend your entire life trying to master it all? That is a really good point, Coach, honestly.
How many companies have a CPA that lives inside? The only ones that do get to a really big size, and that's fine. Once you get to a really big size, then the rules change a little bit. Then you can have several masters because divisions become their own thing, right? I understand that. But for by and large, most companies, your CPA is not necessarily a full-time employee, right? They can be, but most of the time, it's an outside firm that comes in for a very specific thing, because we know the day-to-day, we're journeymen and keeping the books, and we need a master to come in and just look and make sure we didn't really screw something up.
And I'm glad you used the CPA as an example, because immediately that was clear to me. I would see that like, general counsel, CPA, these are areas that, you would go out. And as an organization, I remember the point when we got to that level where I realized, and it happened very quickly, this is not something I want to master. Not saying I don't want to understand it. Of course, I want to understand my own numbers. And I have gained a lot of skill sets to help me understand my numbers. But absolutely, I have learned to depend on a person in that role, a CPA that I consider to have mastery skills and protects my business and protects my money, and then allows me to move on to the things that I'm trying to build. And it makes a lot of sense.
If we go back in time to when this was happening, think about a knight. What is the knight's job? The knight's job is to fight, right? Is to joust, or like go to the tournament, or go to war, or whatever. The knight didn't need to become a master blacksmith. He just needed to identify where those were, develop enough resources of whatever kind to then contract with the master blacksmith. And I think that's a key differential. Now, are some of the journeymen inside of your organization ultimately going to become masters? Yeah, I'm sure they are, right? No question about that, because all masters kind of pass through this journeyman position. It's very important for you to know who those people are, though, because they're probably going to leave. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like saying, okay, this guy's here. Here's what he's doing for us. Eventually, he's going to start his own thing, right? But you're gonna want to identify that. There are other people who will be journeymen. The vast majority of employees or workers are going to stay journeymen at some level for their entire career. If you look at just something we all interact with, like the National Football League, right? There's the journeyman players, and then there's the superstars. Well, the number of superstars is really small compared to the number of players that are there year after year after year. Some of them are rookies, apprentices, trying to figure out if they can cut their chops. Most of them, the vast majority, are journeyman players who they show up, they do a good job. They're not the greatest, but they're very reliable. The hallmark of the journeyman is reliability. So when you're evaluating your employees too, you want to look at that. Like, are they reliable? Are they competent? And am I growing them to continue to be reliable and competent? Or is this someone who's really interesting, brilliant, I'm going to have for a little while before they go do their own thing, which has value to an organization as well. Okay, so I'm not saying
absolutely, especially if you learn how to capture that, right? Because if they're that growing person, if they're the next Tom Brady, if you want to continue using football references, right? But if they're that next Tom Brady, it's that individual that you probably want to rally your folks around, right? You want to put them in positions where they are influencing in a positive way. And I think a lot of organizations, I think they're afraid of masters, Kevin. I really do. I really think that in a lot of organizations, when they see someone that has that mastery potential, I think that they fear losing, and they want to hold those people in roles that would keep them confined. And I wonder, do we do this in the opposite? And so, do we not just try to create masters? Or, in some cases, are we always trying to prevent individuals to grow into mastery, and it creates the same negative effect in our business?
Well, I think it's kind of a combination. So I don't think we're afraid of masters. I actually think most of us want our employees to suddenly become masters and tell us what needs to be doing to happen, right? Because the cool thing about a master is they know. They see the whole problem. They just know what to do. How many people leading other people right now are frustrated that they don't know what to do? It seems like they should know this. Why can't they do what I do, right? Like, I mean, business owners is a constant thing, right? Well, the reason is they haven't mastered the craft. That's a good thing, because if everyone had mastered your craft, it wouldn't be worth very much, right? Remember that you're the value. If you're the entrepreneur, you're the value because of that mastery, because of that unique ability to see what needs to happen. And expecting your employees to have that is silly. Like, if they had that, they'd be doing what you do.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm not saying that's even a negative. Some people don't even want that, and there's nothing wrong with not wanting that, right? But understanding that a journeyman is there to show up, be directed to how he can best move the ultimate vision forward. As leaders, we want to lean into mastery. We are leading in our expertise, whatever that is. So that means it's our responsibility to have the vision. An apprentice applies to a master. He never probably even talks to the master. Apprentice talks to some of the journeymen who are assigned to figure out how to have good apprentices. Why? Because we need people to clean up, and we need people to move rocks, and we need people to do just the stuff that anyone could do. But then they start to build an awareness. The journeyman is there to really get shit done, right? It's the GSD, that's the title, the get shit done title, to execute on the vision. But the master is there to have the vision, to understand where we're going, to lead the entire endeavor. And in any endeavor, there are really not two masters. Even if you look at really big organizations, the successful ones, each endeavor has one person who's in charge. And that's why they get into divisions and subsets and subsidiaries. Why? Because that allows there to be, here's the master for this endeavor. Now, other masters can work together in temporary ways of like, all right, hey, look, we'll give you the vision on this, but it's not going to hold together, because eventually they're going to want to create their own thing.
Because that's what it's about, though, right? I mean, that's the idea of being in that mastery stage. It's not a negative to to create.
Look at Elon Musk and Peter Thiel coming together for PayPal, right? Nobody thought that they're both going to be tied together in PayPal for the rest of their life and never do anything. Like, no, neither of them thought that, right? But they said, man, if we come together for this moment, we can really secure the right funding, dominate the market, and then both go on to do what we really want to do. I mean, Elon Musk was always going to be shooting his car to Mars, right? This was his ultimate vision, right? But having him,
you're absolutely right.
But having him be there was a tremendous boon. But it was a tremendous boon because nobody was confused that he was going to be a 35-year employee of PayPal and punching paychecks, right? Like, so understanding that process and where people are gives you a lot of vision. If you have one of these guys, it's like, man, he's, look at, again, we're using football analogies, so we'll just stay with it. Okay. Rookie quarterbacks don't tend to do very well because there's a speed of game. There's some things happening in that game. They're just different, right? But a team is not going to just get rid of them. They're going to let them see the game. They're going to let them have some reps. They're going to let them learn and practice, right? The same for you. You might have the next superstar, but he's just not ready. He's just not there yet. He's still at an apprentice journeyman stage. Just because someone has all the talent also doesn't mean they get to fast forward through the reps. So you see, man, you have so much talent. You could blah, blah, blah. But you're saying you could based on what you know, not what they know. And we've got to see that and let people progress.
It's funny. I was having this conversation with one of our guys, and he had asked. He said, Rigo, he wanted to make sure that he was moving and progressing in the right direction. And I said, you know what? I said, you're doing great. You're doing everything you need to do. You're showing up. You're learning. You're improving in a lot of areas of what you're doing. But I said, the only thing right now that you can do cannot be done. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you cannot rush time. At this point, it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of experiencing. It's a matter of being present, literally living. At this point, you can't rush what you have to learn because time is the only thing that is now in front of you. There's going to be more things that will pop up. I didn't say he was perfect. I said, you're doing everything right. You're progressing. Because I believe that, this was something that I struggled with when I worked in corporate America for a long time. I would have employees and I would sit with HR and I would give them, my reviews, and they had to review that before I gave it. And they said, well, individuals they always have to have areas to grow. And I'd say, well, they're doing what they were required. They're growing in the right way. The only thing that matters now is time. They're doing great. Why would I not give them a perfect score here? They're doing exactly what we asked in that area. And I really would love your opinion on this, because if we're building Journeyman, I've worked years ago when I was an electrician building power plants before I got into renewable energy. I was working towards my Journeyman position, and I moved into a craftsman role. There were some brilliant journeymen, amazing journeymen that I worked under that I learned skill sets, and these people would be in the role 10, 15, 20 years. There really wasn't much more for them to learn, and they were phenomenal teachers, but they didn't want to move into that mastery. They could have been. They had the skill sets to do it. And I always think we're confused in organizations.
Well, that's a beautiful asset for a company. If you have someone who could move into the master, have their own vision, but doesn't want to, like, trusts you. I mean, we always focus as entrepreneurs so often on the negative, right? Of that, but they trust you enough to say, no, I'll build your vision. Let's go. Like that's a rare commodity these days, right? And it's rare. Let's be real. Like, it's rare that there's a master, like a company, meaning the mastery. It's rare that there's a vision in a company worthy of someone's 30 years these days, right? But when you get that and when you see that, it's a fantastic thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. And that's why I like this. I don't like the word master, but it's the word we got, right? So this mastery, this vision, like, you have your leadership level, like your mastery level. You have your journeyman level, and then you have your apprentice level. And when you start looking at your people and seeing where are they, and then where are they in each given place. So I'm more like your ex-employers, Rigo. I think there always is a place for improvement, but I also think that we have to get really comfortable with 70%, 65% efficiency and output.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that's
40 hours, and you were thinking about your kid for 5 minutes and you're on the toilet for 3 minutes. So I really am only going to pay you for 39 hours and 53 minutes, right? Like,
what we were doing some studying on a conversation we had on our Thursday show, and I had found some statistics and studies, and I got to pull them up. But it's interesting that you brought this up. But some of the largest corporations and companies on the planet have already done the research to find that's exactly the number. That a top employee is 60% efficient. 60% efficient.
And that's okay if they're plugged into a very clear vision, right? Like, think about, let's go all the way down the skill spectrum, like all the way to the bottom, right? Like, you show up, you're a 15-year-old kid who just got his work permit, and you're going to work at McDonald's. Like, I don't think people give McDonald's enough credit, right? Like,
I agree.
Imagine, like, their fries turn out pretty much the same all around the world. Like,
all the time. All the time.
In France or Australia. And it's with 15-year-old guys who's their first job. Well, why? They figured out how to make the vision so clear, right? Which is that crazy beeping noise the fry machine makes, right? Like, we all have heard when that thing's going on. But think about, that's in one way, the system is really showing the vision. So there was a mastery involved in creating that system. And then that system was made so simple that even my 15-year-old son, who's just at his first job on his third day, is not going to burn the fries because it's easy to plug in. It's simpler for us as the people at the top of organizations to focus on the 40% of work we're not getting than to focus on the amount of vision we're not giving to get what we want out of that 60% effective. Like, there is 60% of the time that they're working. Are we really giving a vision and a system that is efficient enough at executing that vision for people to be effective in that 60%. And that's a harder question, but that's a question that masters ask themselves. Like, if you're really going to achieve mastery, that's where you're going to be focused. And that's where, as the leader in your organization, you've got to own mastery and say, okay, if I'm only getting 60% out of people, and hey, maybe,
and that's good. Now, I want to make sure that I'm clear that study, it didn't say this in a negative. I mean, these were top performing employees. Like, companies want 60%. That's what they're working towards. It wasn't a negative thing.
No. But what I'm saying is, as leaders, we need to really focus in on how the cool thing about when this word mastery came to be, right? The master that apprentices and journeyman was studied from, is that guy had no question of who was in charge and who ultimately was responsible for the endeavor.
That's right.
As we start to break that down, and my title's not manager or COO or CFO or CEO, it's, unless it's CEO, there's a question. Well, there's no question. What is the work that you have? If you're sitting at the top of that org chart or that project chart, well, then you are the master of that situation, and it's your responsibility to lead the journeyman and to make sure that the apprentices are learning and not in the way, right? Getting things effective done. That yours is to create that vision throughout that. I find it's an absolutely fantastic model to use as a leader, is to think about, okay, where are my apprentices? Where are my journeymen? And then where do I have any mastery level, or do I need to get that outside? This is why consultants can be so useful from time to time, or coaches, is it's someone who's achieved mastery, but you don't need another master. You just need someone to help fine tune, right? Like you said, like sitting counsel is a great example, right? Even if you have a company that has sitting counsel, you may be doing a project that's like really specific. Very few companies are going to have like a legal counsel who's tuned to, DNA sequencing cases, right?
But you're right. And then that's when they'll have to go contract or consult with a specialist in that area. I mean, that would be the same with doctors, right? You have your general practitioner and a foot, nose, and throat. I don't know why they always seem to be I don't know why foot, nose, and throat seem to be in one doctor.
But a foot, nose, and throat.
Wait, ears, nose, and throat. There it is. Okay, that's probably why it doesn't make sense to me, because I'm saying it wrong. Because ears. Okay, that makes a little more sense.
I don't know what the doctors are like in Kansas, but that is a specialty. I haven't heard that, foot, nose, and throat. Anyway, look, to wrap this up, guys, the bottom line is mastery is something that we want to achieve. And it's something that we don't necessarily want from the people following us. Not again, because we don't want them to become masters if they want to. Many of them don't want to be, or many of them are on the way there. And to best serve the organization, remember, hey, there's one person in any given project, right? And it may be different, right? So if we have 30 people in the organization, and one of our projects is a live event, and another project is an online event, and another project is a one-on-one call, the master in that situation would be 3 different people, but that's the person translating the vision to the journeymen and apprentices, and that allows us to understand the responsibility. And if you're looking at your org chart, and you're looking up, and you have 2 masters on top of the journeyman, you got a problem. And this happens in organizations all the time. We have 2 people of equal rank in charge of a project, and it breaks down. Why? Because vision is kind of a singular thing, so it gets very difficult. Now, what are our journeymen having to do? They're taking in 2 visions, right? I don't care who the masters are. They could be the best ever, right? It could be Michelangelo and Rodin working on a sculpture together. The journeyman is going to have a problem, because he's going to talk to one, and he's going to talk to the other and get a slightly different vision. So now, what does the journeyman have to do? He has to come up with his own vision of how to stitch them together, but that's not his role. That's not what he exists to do. That's not what he signed up for. And when we push the responsibility to have vision down to our employees, this is so crazy. I'm talking to myself right now. When we push the responsibility down to journeymen to have vision, we're going to frustrate our organization.
No, my God. Yeah. I'm thinking of this right now in my own organization, because you're right. You're right. I mean, this is how many others are making the same mistake, where they're thinking, I want to empower my team. I want to empower them. I want to give them opportunity. But the truth is that there is the visionary, and then there's the one that has the craft or will learn the skill set and craft to accomplish it, to execute. And you're right, Coach. We are making a mistake if we're trying to allow them to be the visionary and do the work at the same time. And then we have a different thought. Go ahead.
The ultimate mark of mastery is knowing what your limitations are, so seeing what you don't know. So if I hire, this very specialized attorney to help me, I'm an idiot if I then start telling him what to do. Although what my position now becomes is, how does this fit into the larger thing? How does this guy come in? Of course, in his domain, he is the master, and I become, kind of by default a journeyman executing. But I'm the master of the whole project. I have mastery to see the whole vision. So we just have to be careful with that, because I see that all the time too. It's got really effective businessmen. They hire someone very specialized and they don't listen. Then they tell them what to do. I'm like, well, how? Why? I mean, if you were just going to decide in the first place, you don't have to need to pay this guy $500 an hour.
Yep.
To tell him how to do the thing he's really good at. We wouldn't have paid him, right? So anyway, this is a powerful concept. It's a model. It's a structure. I kind of hate the wording of it, right? Because the word master has so many other negative connotations. But the truth is, this apprentice, journeyman, master model, we've been living it for thousands and thousands of years. It works really, really effectively. It's an effective model and tool for leaders to see, hey, I have a vision. Who are the people who are going to execute it? And am I really telling them where we're going and what we want at the end? And am I really expecting them sometimes to be me, which isn't fair? And by isn't fair, I mean isn't effective and won't work, which is what we don't want to see happen as leaders.
Well, Coach Kevin, I think this was a good conversation. And now this is episode 2 of Language of Leadership. Now, I'm not sure we're going to be starting from A, going to Z, but that was an M. So we went into M. So we had the introduction last week and an M today. So who knows what will be next week's episode. But let me wrap this up as we're getting into this. So Coach Kevin is bringing something very special. I'm happy to be a part of it right now today. But this is something I want you guys to look for. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Time, Coach is going to be coming in with what he calls the language of leadership. And, it was interesting. We did some polls on this over the last few weeks as we were preparing. And there's a lot of different perspectives from leaders on what is the most important element in creating and building a successful organization, whether you're a team leader or an entrepreneur building a business. And the more and more we have these conversations, I'm realizing how critical language is in understanding truly the language we use in leadership, because if we're not aligned with what things mean and what we mean when we say something, nothing else seems to matter. And I love, Coach, that you have identified this as a critical element within leadership and within building a business. So I am happy to be a part of this. Thank you, Coach, for bringing this out. You guys, if you enjoyed this, let us know. Drop some stuff in the comments. Reach out to Coach, reach out to myself. Let us know what you think about this and what you would like to see and hear from us as we get into this and dive more into the language of leadership every week right here, Monday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And I hope you guys got some value out of it. If you did, please do us a favor. Go ahead and follow us and let's connect. Otherwise, you guys have an amazing week. Coach, any final thoughts? We're good to go?
Listen, the language of leadership is so important. There are 3 to 5 words that are driving your enterprise, that drive your person. We call these core values. Even a word as simple as results. If the entire team doesn't have the same definition of results, you got a problem. So the purpose of this podcast, the purpose of this is to help people get on the same page about the language of leading, to get on the same page about the words that drive their enterprise, to help the people who work with them get on the same page so they can just produce results again and again and again at a higher and higher level.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. You guys have a blessed week. We'll talk to you next Monday. See you.